Hey guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with another video, and today's video is going to be about a book. I've been making most of my videos about books these days. It's just what makes me feel good. I think this is where my content will be for a little bit, so I hope you like this kind of content and I hope you stick around for more. Obviously, if you haven't checked out my channel recently, I do have a new series that I have been doing weekly that I put out every Tuesday morning, where we judge books by their covers. Not harshly, I do it respectfully, and basically I like to go in and take a look at the books, and there are books that I haven't seen before, and we rank them in a blind rank, and I basically rank them like how likely I am to pick them up in a bookstore and want to read them. And I think it's a fun video to watch. I think it's a really great way to introduce myself and other people to new books they might want to read. And it's just a fun time, you know, it's such a chill way to just put on a video and just have a nice little fun time for like 15 minutes. So please go check that out. I have been pretty consistent with making videos about all of the books I've read lately, and all of the videos I've made have been plays and books that I've read within the last year or two. And I'm thinking about doing a little bit of a series, a little bit of a theme coming up. Maybe doing some of the books that I read in my childhood that meant a lot to me that I haven't read since then. But I'm thinking about doing that. So let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea, or if you think that might be something you want to watch. But let me know. I love to hear from you guys. Definitely subscribe to my channel. I really, really appreciate those who have. If you haven't, I understand, but it would mean a lot to me if you did. It kind of is like a validation for me that people enjoy my content and want to keep coming back for more. So please do if you can. It would mean a lot to me, as it really would. So please do so. So on to the book that we're going to be talking about today. I read this book recently. I remember the first time I saw it, I was actually at the bookstore with my friend. I love having friends that love books as much as I do, because we just go into the bookstore and just have a field day, because we just go around looking at books. Sometimes we buy so many books. Sometimes we just take pictures of them and like think about getting them later at some other point. But this was actually one of those books that I took a picture of and was like, I'll get it later. I have way too many books in my to be read pile, but this looks really interesting, so I really, really wanted to get it at some point. So I did, and I read it maybe a couple of months ago. Yeah, give or take. It's pretty recent that I read this. This is actually a series. So this is the first book in the series, called Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I like to be sure, because in the book, like when they say it, they go, just do it before the coffee goes cold. So I wanted to make sure. So it's called Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and it's by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And I really wanted to read that to make sure I pronounced the name correctly, because this is a Japanese author. I know a little bit about some words of some Japanese pronunciation, but if I pronounce anything incorrectly in this video, I do apologize, and feel free to correct me in the comments. Please do. So I remember the first time I saw this book, I really loved the cover. And again, this is like one of my favorite things about books is the covers. So it's, as you can see, it's like a little coffee shop. You know, it's got like, this is like, looks like wallpaper, like on the back of a coffee shop. And then there's a table with 2 coffee cups, and then there's chairs. And then of course, I love the addition of the cat here. And it just felt so serene, and like there was so many possibilities to this, because there's no people on the cover of this book. It's just the chairs. It's just the coffee table. So I was like, this feels like there's a lot of possibilities with this concept, with this cover. So I was very, very drawn into this book because of the cover. And I love the title. Before the Coffee Gets Cold just sounds, I don't know. It sounds like there's something temporary and something urgent, you know, because coffee can get cold really fast. So I don't know. It just really, really intrigued me, both the cover and the title in combination. So with this kind of cover, the little like blurb is not on the back of the book, it's in the inside cover. So I'm going to go ahead and read that before I say my thoughts on the book itself. So at the top, it says, if you could go back, who would you want to meet? In a small back alley of Tokyo, there is a cafe that has been serving carefully brewed coffee for more than 100 years. Local legend says that this shop offers something else besides coffee, the chance to travel back in time. Over the course of one summer, 4 customers visit the cafe in the hopes of making that journey. But time travel isn't so simple, and there are rules that must be followed. Most important, the trip can last only as long as it takes for the coffee to get cold. Heartwarming, wistful, mysterious, and delightfully quirky, Toshikazu Kawaguchi's an internationally best-selling novel explores the age-old question, what would you change if you could travel back in time? I can guarantee this is an internationally bestseller because I have been seeing it everywhere here, and I live in Florida in the United States. So I really was excited to read this book. And on the back, it actually has the other books in the series. And I haven't read the other books yet. I do intend to. I don't know if I'll get to it right away. My to-be-read pile is pretty extensive, and I have never been the kind of person to go ahead and buy a whole series before I read the first book. I know that there are people out there that do that, and I respect that choice, but that's just not what I do, because I'm like, then I'll have all these books, and then I'll feel guilty, because I'm like, oh, I should read them, but if I don't like it and I don't want to read it, then I don't read it, and then I feel guilty, so I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So I don't have the other books in the series. I don't have them just to pick up whenever I'm ready. So it may be a little bit before I read the next books. But I do intend to, because I really enjoyed this book. When you read the blurb and you see the title of the book, it is very up to interpretation, you know? It just has a very vague cover and title, and then all it does are there's 4 customers that visit the cafe, and the book takes place over the course of one summer, and those 4 customers each come in to journey back, to travel back in time. And the book is even broken up into sections, like they're not really chapters. Like if you look in the, I guess you could call it the content section, like, where is it? Yeah, so it has the sections. They're not really chapters because each section is pretty extensive. There's like little breaks in each section, but each section's like the lovers and then the husband and the wife. So each section is each of the customers' different story as they travel back in time in the cafe. And I really liked that concept. I really liked that structuring of the book. So I think it made it really good and made you want to keep reading, and it was very organized. So I really enjoyed that too, about how it was structured. So I am not going to give any spoilers right away. I will go into some spoilers in a little bit, but without saying any spoilers, I think the reason I liked this book was because of the stories themselves. Obviously, I am big into stories of just people and everything, but I liked their concept of time travel in this book. So without any spoilers, it does say in the blurb that time travel isn't so simple. There are rules that must be followed, and one of the rules is that the trip can only last as long as it takes for the coffee to get cold. So there are obviously other rules in place, and I don't want to spoil it by saying those are the rules yet, but the rules itself and how the time travel works is what makes this book so interesting to me. And especially because it's a cafe in Tokyo that's been serving this coffee for over 100 years for people to enjoy the coffee and to, if they want, go back in time. And that is so cool. I love the concept of time travel when it's done well. I have seen the Back to the Future movies. I don't love them. That is probably a hot take, but well, let me put it this way. The first movie was fine. It wasn't like, I didn't love their concept of time travel. It just felt a little silly to me. And I guess if you view it that way and you watch Back to the Future for that specific reason that you're fine with it being goofy, have at it. Maybe it's a really good movie in that aspect from that perspective. But I guess because I just have such high standards for how I view time travel and the way that it's written into plots, I'm so picky about it. And I guess that's why I really liked this book, because I liked the way the time travel was written. It made sense to me. And there's even this kind of mysticism around the time travel aspect itself. Like, is it actually happening? How does it work? Why are these rules so specific? Like, I will get into it later in the video in case people are willing to watch spoilers, but I don't want to say it now just in case. But the rules are so specific. And there's something about those rules being so specific that just makes the time travel in this book feel, I don't want to say more realistic, but more digestible. Like, there's just something about it that just feels like, okay, yeah, like time travel itself is an absurd topic because it's not physically possible in this time. I don't know. Who knows what'll happen in the future. So in this time, it's not physically possible, but there's just something about the way the time travel is written in this book that makes it so, it just makes it really mystical. This almost kind of feels like you're walking through everyday life and it's an everyday coffee shop that you would go to, that you would just pick out randomly, and then somehow in this normal, tiny little coffee shop in the basement, there's a way to travel through time. And yet everyone knows about it, and yet it's not this big deal. So it's just, there's something about it that just makes it so alluring to me. So I guess that's why I really like this book, and why I'm definitely going to be reading the rest of the series when I get to it. But I think if you like time travel books as much as I do, or if you just like the idea of hearing people's stories and even what they would do differently if they could go back, this is a book for you. This is definitely a book that you would enjoy if you like those kinds of topics. I think you would even enjoy this book if you just like reading fiction, you know? Because it's just a book of fiction. Like, it's not crazy. It doesn't have any crazy action or huge elaborate plots. Like, it's a simple work of fiction of this small coffee shop, and that's it. And the people that go to be customers and their stories. So that's what I think is interesting about it, and that's what I think most people would want to read this book for. So I do recommend it. I think it's definitely one of my favorite books of the year that I've read so far. Still have a long way to go. We are only in August, so I still have plenty of time to read more books, but so far this is one of my favorite books of the year that I've read. So I definitely recommend this. And when I do read the rest of the series, I'll probably talk about it. And I don't know if I'll do individual videos for each book, or if I'll just be like, I read the whole series, here's what I thought. We'll see when we get there. But anyway, so that is all for the non-spoiler part of this video. So if you don't want any spoilers, I would go ahead and close out the video. So if you are leaving, thank you so much for watching, and we are now going to go into some spoilers. So I want to talk about the rules of how the time travel in this universe works. So without going in and reading word for word exactly what the rules are, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I remember of the rules being, because that's what I thought was so interesting. So the rules for time travel in this universe, in this book: in order to travel back in time, you can only travel back in time within that coffee shop. And you can only travel back in time if you have a specific person that you're trying to see, and that person has to have been in that coffee shop at least once in the past. So you can't just travel back in time and then leave the coffee shop and go wherever you want. It only happens in the coffee shop, and it only happens if both you and the person you're trying to visit in the past have both been in that coffee shop. And in order to travel back in time, there's only one seat at one table in the cafe that will allow you to travel back in time. And yes, you do physically travel back in time. You kind of like turn into coffee steam, and then you appear at the time and place that you were thinking of, because you have to think of the time and place, the exact day, time, place that you're trying to go to. Same place as the coffee shop. You can't go anywhere else. And you are served a cup of coffee from a very specific kettle into a coffee cup. And you have until that coffee goes cold, and you have to drink all of that cup of coffee before it goes cold. And then you'll be transported back to the present. If you don't, you will turn into a ghost. And they do even have an example. There is a being that sits at that chair normally, because she did try to go back in time, and she did, but she didn't finish the coffee before it went cold. And so she kind of got stuck in this weird like time loop thing where she's essentially a ghost, can't ever leave that seat in the coffee shop unless it's to go to the bathroom or something. Like, she can only be in the coffee shop. And yeah, so you have to finish the coffee before it goes cold. But when you're in the past, you can even go to the future, but they talk about it later, but they're like, no one goes to the future. But anyway, when you go to the past, the people in the past can see you because you're physically there. And so the people that work at the coffee shop will be like, oh, well, there's someone that traveled back in time. And then the person that you're there to visit's like, how did you get there? And they don't question it. Like, they're not like, well, you weren't there before, like, blah, blah, blah. But they are like surprised because they can see you, and then you can have a conversation. But not only can you not leave the coffee shop, you can't leave that chair. You can't get up out of the chair that you travel back in time through. I don't know why. None of these rules are explained. And this isn't a rule, but one of the things that there's a character in the coffee shop, and she is not the owner, but she is kind of the one that explains how the rules work to people wanting to go back in time. So like, for example, so her name is Kazu. And so for example, the first character that we see wanting to go back in time. So Fumiko, she wanted to go back in time because at that coffee shop, her boyfriend, who she thought would become her fiance and then husband, was like, I need to go to America to do this whole like tech program, so I have to do that for like the next 2 years. And so I don't know if he was like, I'm breaking up with you or like whatever, but I'm leaving. And she wanted to go back in time and change it. But Kazu says, nothing you do in the past will change the present. They don't clarify this. They don't say you can say whatever you want and it still won't change what they do, because the characters all take that to heart. They're like, well, I can't change the past, so I won't try. So there's a lot of implications there, and part of me hopes that the rest of the series explores that a little bit more. Like, it makes sense that you can't change the past because the past is fixed. It already happened. And so that's why Back to the Future is such a thing for me, because I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You can't have changed the past and all the time and then going, that doesn't make sense. Because then it's so many complications there. With this, it's literally like you're basically just going back to the past to observe. Like, you can have this conversation, but whatever you do doesn't affect whatever happens when you get back to the present, because it's already happened. So you can't change it. And, you know, the reason that most people don't go to the future when they time travel in the cafe is because you have to be sure that the person you're trying to see is going to be in the cafe at that exact date, at that exact time, because otherwise you're wasting the trip. Because the one thing that they don't tell you until you're pretty far into the book is that you can only time travel once. That's it. You don't get another chance. You get to go back one time or forward one time, and that's it. You can't do it again. They don't explain why. And like I said, part of me is hoping they explain that in the later books. But the other part of me thinks that it makes it so much better if they don't, because it leaves it up to your imagination. Like, you know, you can come up with any number of reasons as to why you only get one shot to time travel, and why you can't, you know, leave that chair. Like the chair itself is the portal, is, you know, how it is. And once you leave it, you untether yourself to the portal. And that's how you break the whole like space-time continuum thing of how you're traveling forward and back through time. And so, I don't know. I'm kind of two minds about that whole thing. I like that there's some mystery into it. It's all very mystic. And I really like that. But at the same time, it feels very, it just feels right for how time travel should be as a concept. Because time is so tricky. So it just makes sense to me. That's why I'm so picky about it. And I think it's why I like this book so much. So those are really all my thoughts I have on it. I could go into, you know, the characters' stories and how they get into everything, but I've made this video long enough, and I think if you like this video enough, I think you should go read the book for yourself. I think it's a really good read. So that is all for this week's video. I will be continuing to upload these kinds of videos every Friday morning, and I do have my new series that comes out every Tuesday morning, so definitely be on the lookout for that, and subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate if I could make more subscribers. I'm around 330 right now. I think I just went up a couple of subscribers. I would love to reach 400 by the end of the year. That would be amazing. So please subscribe, share this channel or this video with anyone you think might enjoy this, and like and comment below if you enjoyed this video. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.